off the .com suffix, basically, because that's controlled by the United States. And quite a few people now start to move away from anything associated with things like DNS servers and registrars and the suffix from the United States. And that's kind of also a silly thing when the United States start to censor sites based on what it finds to be objectionable. And like I said, the Russian president is kind of laughing at this because he says, I'm not afraid of what's in these documents. It seems to be like it's the United States that's so afraid. And it's because it apparently makes them look bad. And they make it look even worse when they try to shut down the site. Now that's scaring all the people. I moved all my domain, F6 domains, I moved them all to Ireland a few months ago.
It's very sad, obviously, when this happened, because it seems that, America has always fought for free speech and for rights for people, and yet the way all this has been handled, the leaks, the BitTorrent sites, the piracy sites. I know people don't like that word, but the way it's been handled, it's almost turning the public image of America in on itself, and it's a great shame, because obviously a lot of the freedoms and rights that America enjoys.
It's come on the heels of the 70s. I think it's been more than 70 and more than 77. I think it's like 80 domains now being taken over by the DHS for copyright infringement. Like DHS is now the private police of the copyright industry, or
me and Gordon, I think we mentioned this before about what the Homeland Security had actually to do with copyright, and I think we spoke about that last episode. I just think, and people may rightfully make this point, when I'm looking at the comments in places like Torrent Freak and Slick.com, people are saying, well, fair enough, there might be an issue here with piracy, there might be a copyright issue that needs looking at better, the copyright laws might be draconian, but there are more important things to be dealing with than copyright issues from the Homeland Security. So it seems to be very badly handled, I think, certainly from a PR point of view, if nothing else. And I think it's getting America a very bad name, or losing a bit of reputation, because that's not what I understood America to be.
One of the things we could do to up the awareness and the shame to hopefully to the level where the politicians start to feel it. I know it might be impossible, but every tweet, use the hashtag Land of the Free when you're discussing all these things America is currently doing, or the American government is currently doing, to show that it is nowhere near free. There's one, before I get back to the WikiLeaks thing, what I'm going to do is give a little plug, a little shout out to TechBytes, because I find myself more and more, I'm looking at things and wondering, would people be interested in that? And almost every TechBytes article, I have to hold myself back and say, I don't want to spam people's Identica feeds with TechBytes. Just go and subscribe. TechBytes is an amazing site. And it's on techbytes.com that I found another interesting story about, has the USA lost the moral high ground with internet censorship? And it's basically comparing the US, the censor for commercial reasons, where China censor for political reasons, and like Saudi Arabia block porn, France block, I think, race hate stuff, and Germany obviously block stuff to do with the Nazis and that type of stuff. So it's basically, they are no longer the land of the free. There's still censorship, but for different reasons. But going back to the WikiLeaks thing, I noticed, I listened to the latest episode of Dan Carlin's Common Sense, which came out yesterday, and I urge you to go and listen to that yourself and get it in its full context. But the little point that about WikiLeaks is the accusation that people say to him about WikiLeaks is, well, the mainstream media would have covered these stories anyway. And his point is, well, they may not have. They may have, but they may not have. In all likelihood, they may not have. But even if they do, the journalist, the newspaper says that we've got a story about, and his example was saying that the American military were bombing dissidents or bombing supposed terrorists in Yemen, but for political reasons wanted the Yemeni government to be taking the credit for that. So it's an internal thing. Supposedly the story is an internal thing, and the newspapers say we've got proof that the Americans are actually doing that, but given the credit. and the PR to the Yemeni government, whatever. And they go to the government and put that accusation to them. And someone from the government says, oh no, that wasn't us. That's the Yemeni government. We support them and their actions. Nothing to do with us. And then WikiLeaks come along and show the evidence. That's the value of WikiLeaks. They come along and show the proof that, in fact, yes, Mr. Government Official, it was you. Here's the memos. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. That's where the value of WikiLeaks is.
Maybe a point for future discussion, because I'm very conscious of our running time now, and by my reckoning, we're 1 hour and 5 minutes according to my clock. But one question that does need to be asked with the WikiLeaks, obviously people have an interest in them. There's certainly things of interest in those leaks. But when does the public's right to view this material end in the interests of international relations? And what I mean by that is, should the WikiLeaks sour to the detriment of two countries, the relationship between the two of them, is that necessarily a good testament to WikiLeaks and its purpose? What I'm trying to say is, the damage that it could do, is that okay in the spirit that the fact that people should be allowed to read all these confidential documents? And it's just something I wanted to throw out.
Well, just one quick comeback on that is people they can be very patriotic about what they believe their country stands for, especially Americans. Americans are very patriotic, and they quite rightly stand up for all of the things in the Constitution, and they believe in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, and all that kind of stuff. That's all great. The problem is the PR coming down from the government that they see, that's after it's been filtered through all the various corporate interests, that's what America do. And it's not just America, it's every country. They've got their own PR thing. We're expected to believe that our government are at least acting in our best interests. They may have to do some dirty tricks here and there, but at least their heart is in the right place, even if they have to do some dirty dealing to get there. Now, a lot of these, the right to know things, the reason why they're being resisted is the people who have done these dirty deals, and they're not in our interests. They're stuff that go against our interests. Things that we stand up and say, we believe in this. We as a country believe in this. Well, do we hell? Our government don't believe in it. They never have believed in it, and in fact they're going against it. So yes, that type of stuff, we definitely do have a right to know, I think.
And just to add a second point to that, really, and a second question, as it were. Certainly, I, and I'm sure Roy and yourself, take issues of privacy very, very seriously. We wouldn't be sat here talking calmly if there was a user who'd had their private emails exposed onto the internet. And I think we discussed before about the ACS law issue when they had all their communications put onto the internet. Now, the question I would ask is, obviously, as champions of privacy and people's rights to a private life, I assume, what about the people that have been exposed as a result of this WikiLeaks, who maybe had personal communications? No, I'm sorry. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that that's the case. Yeah. What I'm suggesting is what of, in respect of a personal communication that has been exposed as part of the WikiLeaks, how would we sit on privacy issues in respect of that individual? Forgetting for a second about all the other...
There is a certain insinuation here that something was done to infringe on a person's privacy, but you have to remember, also in the case of Media Defender, when basically all the email was leaked, you're talking about professional emails. These are people at work, and these are people who are supposed to behave in a certain way. This is not them talking about the family and what they do after work. But they usually do keep persistent on the topics of what they do in terms of diplomacy. I don't think Hillary Clinton is shown talking about her daughter's wedding or something like that. She's probably
I would hope not. It was
many people's eyes already, because it is being passed by groups of diplomats.
So I was going to say I would hope not, and it wasn't a question to suggest that there was. It was just a question to say, well, what if? In respect of that, obviously we've got very strong opinions on privacy. What if?
Yeah, it's a very hypothetical thing, though.
Yeah.
You almost suggest that they approach this situation, but from what I can tell from a person who's a very famous leaker, that's Daniel Ellsberg. He looked at these documents and he says this is an exaggeration. I looked at